Con nosotros en este su programa Café con Leche, la voz de los latinos en América. Estamos transmitiendo desde Hermosa 1470 AM y para todo el mundo a través de caféconlecheradio.com. Les habla Lilia Galindo y me acompaña el juez retirado y orador motivacional LaMon. Vamos a darle la bienvenida. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
I am very happy. What about you?
I am very, very happy. It's a good morning, and we still have the freedom to pursue our dreams. That's why I want to talk about freedoms today.
Perfecto. Dice que está muy contento y que quiere hablar de la libertad que tenemos todos de perseguir y de lograr nuestros sueños. Okay, you can start now, please.
I think it's wonderful that we live in a country where we have the freedom to pursue our dreams, and that's reflected in even our Constitution. It gives us the freedom to say whatever we want to say, to write whatever we want to write, to meet with whomever we want to meet, and those freedoms put together give us the opportunity to pursue whatever goal that we want to pursue. But there are limits to it.
Okay. Dice que está muy contento de vivir en un país donde hay la libertad para que podamos perseguir nuestros sueños. Dice, y esto está incluso manifestado en la Constitución de los Estados Unidos de América, donde se garantiza libertad de expresión, libertad de asociación y libertad de escribir lo que uno quiera. Eso es una posibilidad que nos puede hacer que logremos nuestros sueños. Okay.
And the reason why there are limits to it is because there's more than one of us. If there was only one person, then you're free to do whatever you want, no limits. But once there are two people or three or four, or now on this earth we have 7.7 billion, then your freedoms have its limit because it is not allowed to interfere with the freedoms of another person.
Pero también la Constitución establece límites a nuestras libertades. Dice, porque no vivimos individualmente, vivimos con muchísimas otras personas. Dice, ahorita en el mundo hay 7.7 billones de personas. Entonces, mi libertad no puede interferir con la libertad de todos los demás. Okay.
Now, for example, you're free to have a radio show from 8 to 9 every weekday. And you can have whichever guest you want to have. You can interview whomever you want to interview. You can let whomever you want to talk. But what you broadcast has to be true, and it has to be, now when I say it's true, if you want to broadcast something about LaMon, you have to tell the truth about LaMon, otherwise LaMon can go to court and say, hey, she's broadcasting stuff that's not true.
Oh, don't scare me. Bueno, let me translate this before I forget,
Yes.
Dice, entonces todos tenemos una libertad, tenemos la libertad de hacer lo que quieras. Dice, por ejemplo, tú tienes la libertad de tener un programa de radio, de escoger a los invitados que tú quieras, de entrevistar a la persona que tú quieras, de hablar de lo que tú quieras siempre y cuando sea la verdad, porque por ejemplo si estás hablando de mí y dices algo que no es cierto, pues entonces yo te puedo tener la posibilidad de demandarte de que no estás diciendo la verdad. Okay, you can continue now, please.
Now, what made me think about this topic is recently listening to discussions about taking the vaccine for the coronavirus. And people say, oh, I should be free not to take the vaccine. Okay? I should be free not to wear a mask. Okay? Um, I agree with all of that in our country where we have our freedoms. Yeah, you should be free to do it, but your freedom exists as far as it affects you. So, for example, I am free not to wear a mask because if I want to expose myself to possible virus, that's my business. But I am not free to spread the virus. So there are two reasons why we put the mask on. One reason is so that we don't get the virus. But the other reason is so that if you happen to have the virus, you don't spread it to other people. So that's where the limits of freedom go, and that's what made me think about this topic.
Bueno, dice, estoy hablando de este tema porque recientemente escuché una discusión hablando acerca de la vacuna, de personas que dicen que ellos tienen el derecho de no tomar, de no ponerse la vacuna si no la quieren. También que son libres de no usar la máscara si no la quieren. Dice, y yo entiendo y defiendo esas libertades, sin embargo, la máscara se usa no solamente para que no te infectes. Dice, y si no la quieren usar y se quieren infectar, pues allá es su problema, su decisión. Pero también se usa para que no esparzamos la enfermedad a alguien más. So, in those cases, what? Yeah.
So the point here is your freedom is limited to the effect, to the point that it interferes with other people's freedom, and that's the important thing, even about the freedom to succeed. Your success is limited to the point that it interferes with the success of others.
Así es que dice, su libertad está en condición de que no interfiera con la libertad de otras personas. Dice, así como el obtener el éxito no debe de interferir con el éxito de otras personas, con que otras personas puedan lograr también el éxito. So, do you think that if government said, you have to vaccinate, they should have? How come in the past they were applying all the vaccines for children and nobody complained about anything? Or very few people did it.
That's true, and it still goes to that whole thing about the freedom. So there's the question, to what extent can the government require it? Can the government mandate it and say, you must do it? And there are some limits to that too, because the government with its freedom should have its limits also. Otherwise it becomes a dictatorship. If you remember when the virus first began, China, and it began in the area of China, and they shut it down completely. Mm-hmm. They just closed it. No transportation in, no transportation out. You can't go in, you can't get out. And the government of China simply said, this is the way it's going to be. And people had to comply.
And they controlled the problem really well, no?
They did.
Mm-hmm.
They did. So the point is, when we work together, we can control the problem. But if we say, oh, you know what, I've got my individual freedoms. I'm free. I don't have to do what you tell me to do. And as a result, then the problem isn't solved.
Hijo, bueno, estamos hablando de esta discusión de si puedes obligar a todos a ponerse la vacuna o no, porque le decía yo, ¿cómo es que se pusieron, han sido siempre mandatorias el que un niño tenga sus vacunas, si no, no puede asistir a la escuela, ¿verdad? ¿Y por qué no hacer lo mismo? Dice, bueno, pues estamos hablando de los límites también al gobierno, porque si no tuviese límites a lo que el gobierno mandase, pues entonces ya estaríamos hablando de una dictadura, pero también tenemos que pensar en el bienestar, en el bien público. Y estábamos hablando entonces del caso de China. Dice, ya ves, en el caso de China, cuando se presentó el problema, China mandó cerrar toda la economía de inmediato, y le digo, sí, se resolvió el problema, China resolvió el problema bastante más rápido que muchos países porque implementaron medidas drásticas y lo que Dana está diciendo, sí, sí, definitivamente lo que tenemos que lograr es la colaboración de todos, de que todo el mundo entendamos que es importante que sigamos las instrucciones y hagamos lo que se nos pide que hagamos. So, do you know, for example, now children are going to go back to school, and there are some parents that oppose that they use the mask, and I think it's just misinformation, because what is the problem?
Yeah, I agree with you. There is a lot of misinformation, but I thought about it. You know, if a parent says, I want to send my son, I'm going to send Jose to school. I don't want Jose to wear a mask, and I don't think you should make Jose wear a mask. Okay, that's fine. I agree from the parent's point of view, they should have that freedom, because if you're okay with Jose being exposed to the virus, then that's your choice. But what if Jose is carrying the virus? Are you free to say, I want Jose to be free to spread the virus to whomever he wants?
No way, Jose.
And see, that's where the limit is.
Mm-hmm. So I would then recommend that the school authorities would say, okay, if you don't want him to use it, then he's going to take classes from his house.
That's right.
Through the internet. No?
That's right. That's what it should be.
But
because you're not free to expose it, you're free to receive it if you want, but you're not free to expose it. And if we don't know whether you are subject to expose it, then we have to exclude you. We have to leave you. We can't put you in the classroom if we don't know. So that's where one has to make their choice. If you want in-person learning, you have to wear a mask. If you don't want to wear a mask, then stay inside at your house, and then you can see it on video.
Very good. But I don't know if school authorities are going to take that step, but maybe the parents should advocate for their own children and say, no, nobody who doesn't want to use a mask should be in the classroom.
Yeah, well, that's the way to accomplish it. If I had children in school, all my children are, my youngest one is going to be 30 in a couple of days. If I had children, I'd say, well, if you're not going to control who brings the virus into the classroom, I don't want my kid in the classroom. I mean, there's got to be some kind of control. You've got to be able to assure me that I'm not exposing my children to the virus by sending them to the classroom.
Bueno, pues estamos hablando, amigos, de cómo los padres pueden tener la autoridad de decir, oiga, no, queremos que todos los niños que vengan a la escuela usen máscara, y los que no quieran usarla, que se queden en su casa. Y si eso no sucede, bueno, pues decir, yo quiero proteger a mi hijo porque este virus está terrible. Diana, time is gone. Thank you.
Time is gone, yes. So we'll see you again next week.
Hasta la vista. You get your shot. You already got your shot.
I got my shot, and I'm still wearing my mask wherever I go. Have a good week.
So do I. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Nos vemos.